Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode of 10 with Travis, where we take just 10 minutes a day to dive deeper into the Word so you can be more equipped today than you were yesterday. On today's episode, we're going to go into the power of your voice. We briefly talked about it in last episode. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. So as I mentioned last episode, I was at a conference over the weekend at my church called Bethel Harvest Church in Nicholasville, Kentucky. There was 3 different speakers that spoke there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to go over some content from all 3, but today we're building off of what we did yesterday, which was with Pastor Isaac, who pastors a church out in California. So the challenge yesterday was to take the day to evaluate the words that you say, just really be aware of what's coming out of your mouth. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it fearful? Is it faith? So on and so forth. So we will continue to keep that as a challenge and part of what we want to do as we go about this. So the power of your voice, which again is also like the power of your words, it's very simple, but it also is very difficult because a lot of times it is decades and decades of habits that we say, certain phrases that we may say to ourselves that really truly do speak death or speak down upon ourselves, and it's not always an overnight fix to go ahead and change those. So that's why we just really want to hone in on thinking about what we're saying, listening to ourselves, and then just slowly correcting that action. So Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." So it doesn't get much more simple than that right there. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now, although it is simple, that is a verse that many people don't really take as serious as they should. And I think that is what causes a lot of people's issues in today's world. So for example, the fact that the doctor says you're sick doesn't necessarily mean that you should confess it. So 100% yes, it can be a fact that there is sickness in your body, or you feel an ache, or you feel a pain. But that does not mean that you need to confess it. So when you confess that over confessing God's word, you are going into agreement with the devil compared to going into agreement with God. So there's numerous verses in the Bible that talk about your healing and that you are healed and that Jesus came for our healing. And you can go ahead and look those up and we'll touch on one later. But we're either speaking life into that situation of your sickness or your ache or your pain, or you're speaking death into that situation of your sickness or your pain. So what we read from Proverbs 18:21 was that we truly have the power to change our circumstance. So we have the power to turn that circumstance into life or power to turn it into death. So instead of speaking, my back hurts, or, I'm going to get sick again, we need to speak healing, we need to speak positivity, we need to speak God's word and what he says about us, such as in this healing example, Isaiah 53:4-5, which says, "By his stripes we were healed." So that is a verse that you could use as your healing, that you speak that until you see it manifest in your life. So our family has seen some simple but very impactful results from this. So my son Ezekiel, who you saw yesterday in the episode if you watched, one day he got sent home from school for being sick, and that's something that has never happened. He's gone 3 years now, maybe even 4 years now. Probably since the time he was 9 months, he started going to like that school program, and he's never been sent home sick. And he had a cough. He felt real tired. He kind of had some wheezing. And when he got home, Shiloh did a really good job of making him confess that he wasn't sick, that he didn't feel bad, and that by Jesus' stripes, he was healed. So as he was like laying in bed, Shiloh kept telling him to say, "I'm not sick, I am healed." So as he was laying in bed, Shiloh would even ask him, "Hey, Ezekiel, are you sick?" And sometimes to start, he would say, "Yes, I don't feel well," or "Yes, I am," or "Yes, my belly hurts." But she would correct him right away and say, "No, Ezekiel," say, "No, I'm not sick, I'm healed." Up to the point where anytime we would ask him that night, he would declare that and say it. And he was kind of out of bed a little bit, came down to eat dinner, maybe watch TV, went back up to lay down, came down until he eventually went to bed at night. But for a good few hours, anytime that, we asked him, or we would ask him if he was coughing a lot, or wheezing a lot, we would ask him and he'd say, "No, I'm not sick, I'm healed." Well, sure enough, he goes to sleep, he wakes up, he feels great, he goes back to school, and as he's going into school, his teacher said, "Zeke, I'm surprised to see you. You were so sick yesterday." And he just looks at his teacher with his loving voice, which if you know Ezekiel, he's very huggy, touchy-feely. He just looked at her with a smile and he said, "I'm not sick, I'm healed," and he ran into the classroom. So not only was that just a great testimony for our family and a great stepping stone for our family to continue to speak life and not death, since we know we have that power in our tongue, but also it gave Shiloh an opportunity to tell that teacher the story, and it was a way to share Jesus' healing in a building of faith to those around us. So as we dissect this topic over the next few episodes, I want you just to continually evaluate your words. So are you speaking life onto yourself or your circumstance or what you want to see, or are you speaking death and seeing things go south for you? So again, this is very simple, but we have lifelong habits here that we have to break, and that's even including myself, right? We're all used to common phrases when we feel a certain ache or we have something bad to us, happen to us. We say, "Oh, here it goes again." Those are things we cannot and should not say, because number one, it doesn't even help our situation. But number two, we now know that Proverbs 18:21 said that there is power in our tongue. So as we had that challenge yesterday to watch what you say, we're going to add a little bit to the challenge, and that's to bring in a friend, a mentor, a sibling, a spouse, somebody that can hold you accountable and that you can hold accountable. Because many times we can hear it come out of someone else's mouth and we can catch them and correct them in love, compared to when we say it to ourselves, we're kind of deeper into our feelings that we're not able to necessarily catch that for ourselves. So bring someone in on this with you, allow them to help you, allow yourself to then help them, and together you can continue to speak life and not death over your situation. So if this has blessed you and you'd like to give to the network, please see the ways below. If you have comments, questions, maybe you need some Bible verses to go along with that live speaking, please reach out. We can get that for you. We will dive deeper into this topic of the power of your voice, and we hope to see you in the next episode.